In development cooperation, measuring impact has never been more crucial. At the 2025 World Bank IMF annual meetings in Washington, D.C., two long-standing partners sat down to discuss how outcome measurement can transform the ways development institutions deliver results. In this special episode of Grandes Lignes, recorded at the World Bank headquarters, we bring together Rémi Rioux, the Chief Executive Officer of the Agence Française de Développement, and Lissandro Martin, the Director of the Outcomes Department at the World Bank. Together, they explore how both institutions are reshaping their strategies around impact in pursuit of better results for people and planet.
Hello everybody, I'm Rémi Rioux, the CEO of AFD Group, and I'm extremely happy to have this discussion with Lissandro Martin, the Director for Outcomes of the World Bank Group. Always striking to see how close the World Bank and AFD are, like siblings. The World Bank, of course, bigger and multilateral, AFD smaller and national, born a very long time ago, both institutions, facing the same challenges and exchanging on concrete operational solutions. And many issues, but today we are here to discuss impact measurement, which is one of these dimensions of our common work. And listening to the World Bank experience and the push that Bonga, Axel von Trotzenburg, of course led by Lisandro, is doing with the new strategy. So maybe first question to you, Lisandro, can you explain us how you are operationalizing this outcome reflex and changing the internal culture around results?
Merci, Rémi. A real pleasure to have this conversation with you. Really important to know that we are not only financial partners, but I think it's a partnership of the minds on the focus on outcomes. So what we are trying to do at the World Bank Group is to really move away from a conversation that over the years has been about thinking at outcomes at the end when we complete our operations and engagements, to think about outcomes throughout our engagement with countries, every moment since we start the design of a project, while we implement it until we finalize it. And then we talk about a reflex, because what we want is to really have a trained habit to ask ourselves the why, to ask ourselves about the outcomes in every decision that we make, and as opposed to really staying, linked to a plan that we develop at the beginning and then we implement without thinking about the context, to adapt all the way through while we implement it. And I think very briefly, Rémi, three things that we believe are making a difference in the way that we approach this work. Number one is a very strong focus. We have moved away from counting our outcomes with 153 indicators to focus on 22 that give a very clear priority and a very clear direction to our team. So what are the results that we should support our clients to deliver? The second one is to move away from a plethora of indicators that were not focusing on the end result, but were focusing on the inputs and the outputs, and that led us to confuse activity with outcomes. It's very different to train teachers than to actually make sure that kids learn in school. And what we do with our focus right now is to focus on the learning. And then the final one that I think it's important in the times in which we believe, a very strong emphasis on accountability, making sure that our practices are transparent and that we are able to see who delivers what and how. And for that, we're very much using a lot of innovative AI tools and technology tools that give us real-time information of where the teams are on delivering results. I hope this gives you a sense, Rémi, of where we are and how we are implementing. But if I may ask you a question as well, I think I've been very impressed by how AFD is at the frontier of impact-linked financing. And how are you making sure that outcomes become as important as financing in everything that you do?
So first, I said that the parallel between our two institutions is striking. I think your department was born in 2024. We also have our own structure. Zachary Meshali, my colleague, is heading that was also born in last year in 2024. And we also have 22 indicators. So I don't know if it's by chance and we significantly reduced the number of targets. And I want to stress that 17 out of these 22 indicators have been set comparing with the World Bank scorecard. So the idea is really to be able to aggregate impact at project, at sector, at country level, and for AFD as a whole. Of course, ex ante and ex post to evaluate the quality of what we're doing, and also in the end to do addition with fellow peers like the World Bank. And then, of course, we are financing institutions, but our performance is also about impact. So this is what we are selling to the market. And so the methodology we developed for a decade now, which we call Sustainable Development Opinion internally, to rate all the projects ex ante and then now being able to measure ex post impact now is the basis for 60% of our funding. So SDG bonds we are issuing on the market. So 60% means about between 6 and 7 billion euro a year. We are members of the Operating Principles for Impact Management, OPIM, which gathers 180 institutions sharing the same language about the impact measurement. And of course, all this then brings discipline, of course, to operations and the way we operate. And I think it's also a sign of maturity of our institutions to make public let's say both our successes and also when the results are not reached. Lisandro, there's a huge debate in each and every country about development finance and climate finance. You have part of the political spectrum that is thinking this is a waste. So I think we have to provide candid information to this debate. Of course, proud of what we are accomplishing already, but willing to do better. And last point, of course, what's extremely important is we will be able to measure the transformation, meaning the starting point and the trends. Our work will speed up. So this is the comparison with AFD and the way we connect with the financial market. And maybe to conclude our discussion, dear Lisandro, and then wrap up, maybe your views on what could be next steps for us and also for the wider development community to work together and achieve better results.
Excellent, Rémy. This is a very good question, and I think it resonates what you have been saying very much with the next steps that we all should be taking together, learning from our mutual experience. Perhaps 3 things on my side. One, I would say that we need to continue pushing for measuring the same things the same way, a very strong push for harmonization. And I am very glad that you mentioned that your scorecard aligns very well with the World Bank Group scorecard. One of the issues over the years have been that we have confused clients by measuring similar things in different ways and therefore not contributed to build the right capacities, but also confused shareholders of the many different institutions because they are unable to hold us all accountable comparing our data. So I think it's important that we put the effort on harmonizing how we measure. A second point that I would highlight is transparency. I think it's very important for all of us to be able to communicate these results in a transparent manner with methodologies that are reproducible and that disaggregate to the country level so that accountability is not an issue only at the global level, but citizens can hold their own governments and our own institutions accountable at the local and country level. And then the final one, that is a very simple one, but a very important one, is to really fight the present, to have the eyes on the future and on the outcomes that happen with the support that we provide. I think we are all extremely busy, governments, civil society, multilateral organizations, and then when you are busy, you focus on the day-to-day, you focus on the inputs, you focus on the outputs, but you don't carve space to focus on the why and on the real impact of what you do. Unless we are conscious about it, we are not going to have the impetus and the reflection that is needed to deliver on outcomes. So let's together make sure that as we participate in international fora, as we think about our own internal reforms, we think about creating the space for outcomes, because the more we talk about outcomes, the bigger the chances that we can deliver them.
No, I fully agree with you, Lisandro. What we are doing together has a wider significance than ourselves. I commend Age's direction, vision, what the group of MDBs are doing on many issues. Impact is one of them, but I want to mention the GEMS database, for instance, which is so important for private investors, the co-financing platform with many of us. And we can bring from AFD national public development banks in the picture. So this is this movement we launched 5 years ago that is called the Finance in Common, the FIX system, which is articulating international multilateral platforms, setting standards, incentives with the rest of the architecture, meaning the hundreds of national public financial institutions, CBNDES, for instance, in Brazil. And in the end, I agree, and especially if we want to build an originate, to aggregate, to distribute system, we need a common framework. We need common indicators, and I think we are on this way, thanks to the leadership of the World Bank. So thank you so much, Lisandro. It was a pleasure. Merci à toi.
Merci beaucoup. Pleasure. Thank you very much, Rémy, for the invitation, and thank you to our listeners. And I hope you can stay in touch by visiting our website on the scorecard and giving us any feedback that you have about the movement that we are undertaking. Thank you.
Thanks to you all, and thanks to the World Bank for hosting.
Thank you for listening to this special episode of Grandes Lignes. The podcast was created by Elsa Murat and is hosted by Etienne Charrière. This episode was produced by Shaila Rahman and Samantha Malhotra in Washington, and by Eric Tauvin, Niwin, and Maxime Garnick in Paris. Special thanks go to Laurent Bidiscombe, Zachary Meshali, and Radhika Chakru for their support. Remember to follow us on your favorite podcast platform to never miss an episode of Grandes Lignes, the podcast on development research.